and he said, well, tell me what kind of tree do you have, son, and just how big is it? I said, well, I don't have a tree yet. That's why I'm getting started now. Yeah, didn't work out so well. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. So stay tuned. You're going to want to be a part of this journey.
The Story Power Method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com. Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders podcast, and I never did get that treehouse. I mean, I thought I would. I thought I'd have a treehouse that I'd be able to climb in, but when I asked the guy at the hardware store, how much lumber do I need to build a treehouse and how fast can I get a tree, he gave me that answer that you hear often. It didn't make any sense to me then. I was 12. I got to the lumber store on my bicycle. But he said, if you want a tree big enough to build a treehouse in, you need to plant that tree 20 years ago. I said, oh. He said, but the second best time to plant a tree is, well, today. I said, well, if I plant it today, how long before I can put a tree house in it? He said, about 20 years. I'm like, well, then I guess my kids are going to play in it, not me. I never planted the tree. In fact, the only tree on that property that was my childhood home was about a 20-foot diameter cedar bush. And we tried playing underneath there like a fort from time to time, but we had to share that space with bumblebees and dirt daubers, and that wasn't happening very well. So no tree house for me. You know, there's a whole lot of things in our life that we want out of life, but we never plant the seed to get it. Did you know that my wife spent 36 months pregnant? I mean, just since I met her. A total of more than that. 36 months pregnant. That's a whole lot. We have 4 kids. 3 of those were born between 95 and 98. And in that time frame, she spent most of that time pregnant. But see, if that baby was in there, we knew that baby was in there, we may have asked a lot of questions about that baby being in there. Questions like, will it be a boy or a girl? Will they be a superstar athlete or a doctor? Will they be a lawyer or a professor? Will they be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad? A soccer player? We had no idea. There were so many questions about what kind of little person will they become? Will they have special needs? Will they have learning disabilities or an IQ that's off the charts? We had no idea. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about it once that gestation has started. You're going to get what you're going to get. And we did. We got 3 beautiful children, have all grown into adults, 4 adult children now, and soon to be 14 grandkids. And all of them happened the same way. A seed was planted, that seed went through a gestation period, and poof, out popped a baby. You know what we never asked, though, in all those times of asking the questions, will they be smart, will they be tall, will they be short, will they have red hair, will they have vanishing hair like Dad? We never asked the question, will it be a rabbit or a giraffe? No. Will it be a baby dinosaur? No, we never asked that question. Why? Because we knew what kind of seed was planted in there. We knew that the seed was going to be the same thing that we planted. If it's a baby seed, it's going to be a baby human, because that's what they make. Nobody ever ponders when they plant corn, will I get potatoes? No, if you plant corn, you get corn. You plant jalapenos, you get jalapenos, not cherries. You can't plant puppy dogs and get porcupines. It doesn't work that way. The seed is going to come up into the thing that was planted in the first place. And the thing that you harvest, that you produce, the results that you get, they're going to look just like the seed. Now, granted, Along the way, you may have something like a bamboo that looks like it's doing nothing, and then you go to bed and wake up the next day and you got 8 feet bamboo, and you're like, where did that come from? From the seed. See, bamboo, like many seeds in your life, it takes just the right care, just the right climate, just the right nutrients in the ground, and a whole lot of water. And like many seeds, whether it's your citrus farms or your olives or your grapes that you're going to make your wine and your olive oil out of, they demand a lot of attention. You know, almonds. Everybody loves their almond butter, loves their almond milk, loves their almond whatever. Almonds take more water per acre than almost anything on the planet to make a little tiny nut. But in order to grow from seed to fruit, from seed to produce, you got to have the right seed. You got to put it in the right cultivating experience. Give it the proper amount of gestation time, and then the miracle happens. The challenge we have when it comes to success, and this entire journey of Live a More Excellent Life, is about the fact that there are probably some things in your life, some seeds that you've planted. You're looking at the produce now, you're looking at the harvest now, you're looking at the results now, and you're going, where did that come from? If I drove by your house on a late Friday night and I threw 5 pounds of dandelion seeds in your front yard, by Monday you'd have dandelions. By about 2 months from now, you'd have no grass left because the dandelions will eat all your grass, suck all the nutrients out of the ground, and kill whatever it is you're trying to grow there, because that's what dandelions do. Now, there are some medicinal purposes for dandelions, but you should grow those separately from your carpet grass in the front yard because they're not going to blend well together. Most people consider dandelions to be a weed, a vicious weed, a malicious weed, a bad thing. And if that's the case, then it came from bad seeds, right? Bad seeds make bad weeds. Johnson grass, thistles, whatever it is you got growing in your yard that you're trying to get rid of, milkweed, those come from bad seeds. We often forget that in our lives, especially in our young, immature, unstructured lives, we plant bad seeds. Maybe it's habits, behaviors, attitudes, addictions. Maybe it's the way we treated the people around us, a lack of authority, a lack of respect, the way that we responded every time someone tried to correct us. We'd like to think those are one-off incidences. I lost my cool on that day. I acted like a jerk to that person, but they were in traffic and I don't know them anyway. I'll never see them again. I'm driving through town. I'll never be back here again. I can act like an idiot in the drive-thru because I don't even live here. And we forget that those are seeds. And they don't always grow where you think they're going to. My mother used to tease me and tell me, son, if you don't clean out your ears after playing football or playing outside in the mud or whatever, if you don't clean the dirt out of your ears, potatoes are going to grow in there. I can't imagine the headache that would produce. I don't think potatoes will actually grow in your ear, but I do know that if you leave potatoes in a bag in a dark corner, they will start to sprout, and if you don't pay attention, they will grow new potato roots right there in your pantry if you're not careful. Yeah, and little bugs, if you get bug infestations, spider eggs, maybe you've seen those before, those are seeds, yeah, and they grow in places that you never expected them to grow, and then they show up, and you're like, where did they come from? Well, those are seeds that were planted a while back, like that bad attitude you had with your school teacher, and now you're trying to get your next degree, you're working on that master's degree, and you're like, man, I really need some character reviews behind me. And you reach out to that English teacher and you're like, hey, I'm trying to get my master's degree so I can be an English teacher. And they're like, yeah, you were such a jerk to me though. It's hard for me to find nice words to say now. Seeds. And an elephant takes 22 months. Did you know that? 22 months, not 36 weeks like the average human, 39, 32. They've been all over the board. We've had really early ones and some that are just like, right on the nick of time. Elephants take 22 months, 2 full years of being pregnant. Can you imagine that? And then a baby that weighs close to 500 pounds sometimes. Holy cow. I think that's what they call an elephant, mom, a cow, and a bull elephant would be dad. Can you imagine, though, being a pregnant elephant with a baby that big in your belly for 2 full years? You ever planted a seed and then watched it like a pot of boiling water? You just kind of stare at it and you wish for it to grow and you want it to become, you put $500 in the stock market on Monday and by Friday you're thinking I should be a gazillionaire. No, it doesn't happen like that. Sometimes different seeds have massively different gestation periods. And in fact, there are a couple of them mentioned in the book. Carrots take about 18 months. Elephants, 22 months. Rabbits, you ready for this one? A rabbit seed, 31 days. It'd be nice if all of our success seeds were rabbit seeds, or heaven forbid, cockroach seeds, because those things tend to reproduce faster than the rabbits. They're everywhere. And usually you don't know where they came from. They're just everywhere. Or like little fire ants. You're like, I see one. There's never just one. There's hundreds or thousands of them. When you plant seeds in your life, good ones and bad ones, you never plant one seed. We talked about the mustard seed in the last episode. The mustard seed is tiny. It looks like a pepper flake. But it grows a tree. And from that tree, more seeds. And from those more seeds, more trees. I mean, an apple, when you cut it open, it might have 5 or 6 seeds in it, right? But you plant all of those seeds, and each one of them has the potential of growing another tree on which grows more apples, and every one of them has 5 or 6 more seeds in it. The potential from one seed is incredible. But you never plant just one seed, because if it doesn't go through the gestation process right, if it doesn't get enough nutrients, if a bird decides to snatch it up and eat it because it looks like breakfast, now the seed you planted is gone and the thing you're expecting to grow isn't coming. Just remember, that's good and bad seeds. When you throw those bad seeds out there, that negative attitude, that verbal abuse of a stranger, that cutting people off in traffic, that cutting corners on your job, cutting corners in relationships, all of those are seeds. And all of them will be planted, they will be sown into your life, and they will come up as a crop at some point. And when they do, you're going to be dealing with all of the fruit of the seeds that you planted. Now, if you're smart, you plant good seeds. You plant seeds like patience, kindness, gentleness. You love on people. You allow those relationships to be something tender and invested in, not callous and abandoned. But that's up to you. It's totally up to you. Now, Zig Ziglar made a great observation while teaching about a part of the brain that all of us should not only be aware of, but should understand what its function is in our life. It's called the reticular activating system. Zig Ziglar said it like this: nobody has a green Buick until you go buy a green Buick. And the minute you buy a green Buick, it's like everybody in the world has one. My wife has a unique little car called a Volvo XC60 T6. I don't know why it has so many letters and numbers. It's like the Swedish alphabet or something. But all of these little numbers tell you something different about the car. It's a very uniquely shaped car. And she loves that little car. When she bought it, she was so ecstatic. She got it for her birthday a few years ago. And now, I mean, before we bought the car, I thought it's a Volvo, whatever. It's the safest car on the road, usually the most hideous too. The S80, I think, was the station wagon that ran like a rocket ship and it looked like a cracker box. The XC60 is not a bad looking little car. It's kind of sporty, kind of station wagon-y. It's like a sporty station wagon. Very quick little thing. But I didn't realize how many of them were out there until we got one. Now they're everywhere. I mean, they're like, in this tiny little town we live in, there are probably a dozen of them, white and black and silver. They're all over the place. I didn't know they were that popular because they were not in my awareness. See, this part of the brain called the reticular activating system, what it does is elevates in your life those things that you become aware of. Well, let me say that another way. Caroline Leaf and Bruce Lipton both say, you get more of what you focus on. Well, you can't focus on anything you're not aware of. But once you become aware of it, the more attention you pay to it, the more it seems to show up in your life. Not just show up because you're like, oh, I saw one. Now I see all of them. That is true. It's also true that when your desires, like a seed, are planted in your life, I want to have a car like that one day. I want to live in a home like that one day. Now, I'm not a huge believer in The Secret or the law of attraction per se. But I can tell you for a fact, I went to a football game in about 2014, 2015, where my boys were playing for a homeschool football league. And we drove, I don't know, 2.5 hours to a little town south of Dallas. I say little town, there's about 65,000 people. But when we drove into this town, we came over the top of a hill. The state park was on one side, and on the other side there was this rock gate that went into a community. And as we stopped at that red light, I turned to my wife and I said, one day we're going to live in a gated community like that. We both kind of giggled about it and we went on our merry way. 2 years later, I was offered a job in that town. And the owner financed home that we had a chance to buy from my boss who hired me was right through that gate. Up the hill to 2nd Street, take a left, 2nd Street, take a left, second house on the corner. That house in that neighborhood behind that rock gate, I had no idea 2 years before when I passed that rock gate, one day we're going to live in that neighborhood. And we did. We lived there for 2 years. 7-bedroom house. Beautiful. How did I know that? I didn't, but I became aware that the opportunity was there. I became aware that something more than, different than, better than, expanded beyond what I have right now is possible. And I allowed myself to believe it. Now, if you're struggling with that, I want you to go back and watch the last episode, the last lesson on believing. Because if you don't believe it, it won't happen. You've got to plant the seeds and then you've got to cultivate them. You can't just believe once and expect everything to change. You've got to believe and then cultivate. You've got to plant that seed and then cultivate. But before you can plant the seed, you have to be aware there's a seed for that. There's a seed for that. Now, here's the biggest challenge for people who want success. Like me, many people grew up believing the rich get rich, the poor go broke. I don't want to be rich. I don't like those people. I grew up that way. I learned that lesson over and over and over again. And saw it demonstrated because the way I looked at the world would only let me see the world that way. Maybe that's the way you see the world. Maybe you've got a little vision problem with you can't see the vision of what your future could be, should be, ought to be, would be, because you only see the world through the lens that you've already created for yourself. You're going to have to change that lens. You're going to have to change your awareness. You're going to have to go out and experience something beyond your means. You're going to have to stretch yourself a little bit. Try staying in a relationship longer than 3 months and just see what happens. Spend some time around couples that have been married for a long period of time. Oh yeah, you'll probably see some of their squabbling and some of their bickering and some of their, you're still getting on my nerves, but I'll tell you something else you'll see. You'll see love in spite of, not love because of. True story. 32 years Labor Day weekend. How does that happen? Well, dedication, commitment. You just don't give up. You just stay in it. You stay with it and you never quit. That's how that happens. If you spend your life eating Dorito seeds, yeah, potato chips are seeds. They grow big bellies and lazy people. Ask me how I know. You know what else is a seed? Discipline. And discipline bears an entirely different harvest. If you get around people who are disciplined, people who don't eat that kind of stuff, people who eat clean, live clean, speak clean, think clean, people who live a life like that will help you to cultivate that kind of life in your own life. The awareness that there is that option. A guy invited me the other day. He said, hey, why don't you go fishing with us? I was like, Not a big fan of fishing, but I'd go just for the company. He said, good, we're going to the Amazon. We're leaving on such and such a date. I'm like, whoa, hold on. That's a whole lot of money to invest in fishing when I don't like fishing. But the conversation was so natural to this person and their buddies that they're like, oh yeah, we'll be in Canada next week, and then the following month we'll be in the Amazon. We're gonna go fishing. You should go with us. We're gonna go high fence hunting. We're gonna go hunt for exotics. We're gonna go shoot some pigs out of a helicopter. These are all things that I've heard of. I've never been in a circle of people where it's a common thing. That raises your awareness and it stretches you a little bit in your comfort zone. I have a client who has a yacht and has property on 3 different continents. I'm like, well, that's a little more than I have, but just having those conversations stretches your awareness of what's possible, of what could be done. If you live in that myopic little world that you've always been in, you're not going to plant seeds for a greater future, because the only thing you see in your purview are the seeds you already have planted. The weeds, the grasses, the fruits and vegetables that are growing in your little garden right now is all you know could be grown. You've got to expand yourself into another territory. You've got to understand that some of the seeds you planted are bad seeds, and you're going to have to dig that sucker up by the roots and plant something else if you want your life to change. If you've got a list of bad habits from, remember way back in our first exercises, we talked about the butcher paper and listing those things that are productive versus counterproductive. If you were looking at those right now and thinking, well, these are 5 habits that I have and those are counterproductive to my life, understand those are seeds. They're just like the apple seed. There may be 6 of them in that fruit, but they'll grow an entire orchard. Your bad habits will do the same thing. Again, ask me how I know. Bad habits like anger, being short with people, not being willing to listen to other people's issues, not being willing to pay attention to what they're going through. All of these are seeds. Selfishness, entitlement, I deserve, I demand, I want. That's understandable when you're 2, but if you're still living your life like that at 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, there's something truly wrong. You've got a bad seed that needs to be pulled up by the roots and something else planted. That's a big challenge for a lot of adults that I encounter. They run their life based on a toddler, tyrant type of a mentality. I was talking with someone just the other day who said, my friend needed me, and when they needed me, I didn't see their need because I was only looking at life through my own needs. I wasn't there for them when they needed me because I demanded that they be there for me instead. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but I'm going to ask you, have you had a season like that? Have you had a moment like that? Do you have relationships like that where the people who would love to be able to count on you can't count on you because every time you're together, you demand something of them? That's character flaw, my friend. That's a bad seed. You're going to have to pull that sucker out by the roots and become a different somebody if you want all these other things in your life to work. If you understand that your life is a limited garden, the amount of seeds in your life can only go so far. You only have so much space. You can expand your space. You can expand your territory. I encourage you to do that. But for what you got right now, if all of the space you have in your life is taken up by bad seeds, too many videos, too many video games, too much time at the bar, too much time at the ice cream bar, too much time stuffing potato chip seeds in your face, if those are the things that take up your time, talent, treasure, and attention right now, you're going to have to pull some of those seeds up. You've got to resurface that garden all the way down, till it up, dig up everything that's in there, get the bad seeds out, put down some weed killer and some fertilizer, and let's get ready to plant some real seeds. What are those seeds going to look like? You're going to have to decide that. What is it you want out of your life in this next phase? Some of those seeds, like elephant seeds, are going to take months, maybe years of nurture and care, nutrition, protection. Protect them from the birds, protect them from the sunshine, give them the amount of sunshine they need, or shade that they need, or water that they need, or fertilizer that they need. But if the seeds in your life are taking a minute to grow, maybe it's because you're not caring for them. Or maybe it's because you got too many weed seeds around them for them to grow healthy. if you'll take the time to raise your awareness, expose yourself to things, and then plant some seeds for them, you can make a huge difference in your life. I'm going to share with you the questions. At the back of this particular chapter, again, we're Live a More Excellent Life. You can get your own copy on Amazon, or you can go to Story Power Academy. There's actually an entire digital course for this book. Page 175. This is the freedom action for living a more excellent life. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, but you can start by planting today the orchard you want to enjoy. What trees would you like to enjoy later? What you focus on tends to grow. So what seeds of life are you focusing on right now? Again, if your attention, if your focus right now is all about the habits of anger and frustration and a bad diet and no exercise, and these are the things that are going to harvest in your life. List 5 habits or traits that you see, that you want to see more of in your life. Maybe these are things you've seen in the lives of other people. You've seen those things, you're like, that's the kind of life I want to live. I want to have that kind of discipline, that kind of house, that kind of car. I want to be that kind of person. Great. Write those down. Raise your awareness. Get around people who have those things in their life now, and you'll begin to see how they pulled it off. List 5 traits you'd like to leave as a harvest for your family and friends. I can tell you, when you become a more patient person and you demonstrate that, it's catching. It's contagious. It's like the little dandelion seeds that come up, the little white puffy ones, and you blow them in the wind, and they travel. And if you do that enough, your neighbors now have dandelions. True story. What bad habits are you aware of in others? Because they're true in your life as well. Now, see, that's when we really get a little meddly. We're starting to meddle in people's lives, but the truth is, if you want your life to be more excellent, you're going to have to get deep in your own weeds. You're going to have to be really honest with yourself and look at your garden and go, yeah, I wasn't planning to grow that, but it's obviously there. I've got some bad habits I need to get rid of. And I'll tell you, the first place you're going to see those, when you look over into somebody else's garden, you're like, ooh, that's a cactus. I wasn't trying to grow a cactus, but it seems like this little plant looks a lot like that big plant. You better get rid of that little plant right now. Dig that sucker up by the roots. Get that habit out of your life, or it's going to grow up into something much larger. And then it's going to produce seeds, and it's going to make more of itself, because that's what they do. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game, but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.